Hello again. In John Karel von Baalen's The Chaos of Cults, this is the fourth edition from 1962. Here he's dealing with one of the most popular books on Spiritism, published in 1937. It was called the Betty Book by Stuart Edward White. He continues on that subject. Mr. White, who lived from 1873 to 1946, is known as the talented author of many books of adventure and travel. During the last 20 years of his life, he added to his travels through Africa and Alaska an itinerary far into another land, a territory more unknown, yet close around us. It began in 1919 when Mrs. White, the Betty in the three books, was summoned by invisibles, that is, spirits in the beyond, to take psychic matters seriously and to develop her natural gift for communication with the dead. For many years, Mr. White and others took down a vast mass of what was revealed to Betty, and when, in 1939, the wife died, the husband continued his wife's explorations, got in touch with her, and at the age of 67 completed the message for the guidance of seekers after truth and comfort. Fundamental in the White trilogy is the thought that there is only one universe. Both heaven and hell are right here, hell being only suffering from frustrated urge, since in the hereafter all are bound to desire the progress of evolution. Betty states, I am right here. There is only one universe. There is no other heaven. It is only that you cannot see me. Your eyes are not attuned to the color, your ears to the sound. I am in the unobstructed phase of the one and only universe. That is all. It is only that my I am, notice that, is separated from the obstruction that was my body. The world, my world, is your world plus. Man is a bit of individualized consciousness, and the only rock is recognition of the creator as greater than the thing created, acceptance of the oneness of consciousness as a whole. Thoroughly pantheistic is the new Spiritism, as was also the old. When asked how she could formally pray the Lord's Prayer while yet always beyond the anthropomorphic idea, Betty replied from the beyond that she was wont to address her prayer to consciousness. Did you think of consciousness with personality, warmth, such warmth as comes from with personality, I mean? As though I were drowning in a great sea, and there was a ship full of people, any or all of whom could help me. While in his earth life, man has two bodies, the alpha and the beta body. The beta, B-E-T-A that is the actual invisible substance which you have for long-term solar spirit. It is weight, and if a man had scales, he might weigh the medium before the cold goes into the room and after. The difference would be the weight of the cold, which is the beta going out in response to a magnetic call of another consciousness to his own. When this going out is done under proper conditions and in the right mood, great good may result, for one can get in touch with the oversoul only through the subconscious, which is in the beta, while the conscious mind is in the alpha body. Spiritism, then, is the very opposite of Russellism, with its rationalistic praise of the intellect. White belittles the intellect, the brain. It is a marvelous mechanism, but effective only in combination with the inner self. It is a machine which must be worked by the other, wiser, guiding consciousness. Thus the man, the person, is said to be in the beta, is left a prey to all sorts of suggestions from the spiritual world. Mr. White did not receive vulgar, obscene, irreverent, silly information, as have countless other spiritists before him. And there are beautiful literary touches, fine illustrations in the White books. The mysteries of spiritistic phenomena become quite plausible events when he speaks on orthos and the essences, on time, space, motion, frequency, conductivity. Take a few samples. For instance, time has three aspects. The first is sidereal time, that is spelled Latin S-I-D-E-R-A, which means stars. The term stands for our ordinary time, determined by the stars and ticked off by the clock. Already here, however, we know that there is a different aspect of time, which may be called psychological time. An hour is not always the same. 5 minutes may seem like 60, when we wait for a pot to boil. 15 minutes may seem endless when we nervously wait for a train to arrive. Let the same 15 minutes be spent in intense survey of beautiful surroundings, and the train arrives before we realize we have waited any time at all. Thus, time is elastic, not fixed at all. There is also a third time, that is, orthic time, orthos being the Greek word for right, correct, as most people know from the word orthodox, that is, right opinion. This orthic time, in which those live who have graduated from our life, is also malleable. It expands and contracts. It is a timeless present of which we have a slight experience when we pace about, oblivious to past and future moments. The dead, therefore, are far from dead. They are like the Old Testament Jehovah, who said, I am, not I was or will be, but just am. Just plain being is the time condition of the hereafter. There are also three aspects of space. The first is determined by the geometrical distance between 2 points. Psychologically, however, that distance varies. Long if we walk, footsore and weary. Short if we ride over a concrete road in a modern car geared to do 70, 80, or 100 miles an hour. When we sleep in a Pullman compartment, we may awake at a distance of many miles, but all that space has vanished. What obstructs us is not the number of miles, but our inexpertness in telescoping them, or, if you will, telescoping through them. In the third, or orthic space, those who have gone on before live in the same universe in which we dwell, but are minus the obstructions of the dense alpha body, and they know that space itself is not solid. They pass right through it at will. There is also an orthic motion. In the universe in which we live, the unobstructed universe, motion is real. The train may move faster and faster, though only up to a certain point. It may also stand still and yet be in motion, because it moves through space with the earth on which it stands. But in Betty's universe, motion is obstructed neither by time nor space. In orthos, motion is instant. No wonder the wise spiritist does not fear death. He gladly anticipates it. It will be a permanent laying aside of all obstructions, something he has done quite frequently for a while, if, namely, he has developed the psychic aptitude of leaving the alpha body and stepping out in the beta. It is a pleasurable releasing, quite different from the death agony idea. That's a direct quote. Nor can those step ladders to which Mr. White referred fail to lead some poorly instructed souls astray. For many other spiritists freely and with gusto point to the facts that Abraham, Moses, Saul, Samuel, Isaiah, Daniel, and Paul all were psychics and had definitely spiritistic experiences, while Jesus was the greatest medium of all. He was clairvoyant and clairaudient, telepathic, and he was a materializing medium. Besides, all the information from the other side points to the happy existence of the invisibles. As the older spiritists spoke of 7 spheres all around the earth, as the layers of an onion around its core, so White speaks of different levels of existence hereafter. Those on the first level are guided on toward the next and more felicitous by those already inhabiting them. To the Christian, however, this fast and loose play with the Bible is self-condemnatory. For if all the information by so-called visiting spirits from the beyond says that there's nothing to fear, to fear in death, that life goes on exactly as it did here, then Jesus must have been a poor medium. For Moses and Elijah discussed with him his exodus at Jerusalem, that is, his death, resurrection, and ascension. Yet the same gospel from which the spiritists endeavor to prove Jesus, a materializing medium, continues to describe his anguish in Gethsemane at the approach of death. Do we have the greatest medium so out of harmony with the unanimous testimony of the spirits, or shall we scrap the comparatively large sections of the 4 Gospels describing his death agony? Yes, it is all very attractive and quite scientific. It is, as Darby concludes in The Unobstructed Universe, quote, so inclusive a philosophical structure, so closely knit, so airtight logically, one that proceeds through so wide a range of subjects and interlocks them all so perfectly that not a seam shows, and with all that expresses it so simply and so clearly, unquote. And there is a gradual development from first book through second and third, beginning with the demonstration that psychic phenomena are possible, continuing to show how it should be tried and what pitfalls to avoid, and working up toward a climax which leaves little to be asked. So the bottom line is, don't worry about death and the afterlife. Exactly the opposite message from, of course, the Gospel of Paul, who told us about a judgment to come for all of us. Next time, the explanation of phenomena. That is the two types of Spiritism that exist: fraudulent Spiritism, along with bona fide Spiritism. I'll put in a link to what is death and life according to the book of Genesis, specifically chapter 2, the Eden passage. What is death and life according to the Old Testament? Therefore, see you next time.